Comadres. Welcome to another episode of Comadreando podcast. I am your host, Marcy. And today we have an amazing guest, Coach Reet, and I'm going to let her introduce herself. Who are you?
So my name is Coach Reet. I've been a personal trainer for the last 12 years, and I absolutely love it. I'm starting to move into the online world because I am in this new position where I just moved from Denver, Colorado, back to my hometown, San Antonio, Texas, to be here with my brother full time.
Nice. Okay. So I connected with Reet online because I came across one of my favorite videos, and it was her brother giving her coffee. There was like a montage of multiple days of him doing the same routine of making her coffee and passing it to her, which is funny because my son had just made me coffee the other day, which was super cute. So I was like, oh, this is so sweet. So I feel like that's one of your most viral videos, yeah?
Oh, yeah, for sure. That is the one that has just completely taken off in the last really 2 weeks. In the last 2 weeks, it's at like 20 million followers or 20 million likes right now.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
So when I followed you on Instagram, obviously, because it was like a suggested reel, and then a bunch of the people that listen to the show sent me the reel as well. And when I saw your story and heard part of it, I was like, oh my God, I need to bring her on the show. Because we, as parents of children with special needs, we want to know that our kids are going to be good, and not all of us have like a sibling that we can depend on. So I wanted to have you kind of share your story about how you ended up becoming your brother's caretaker and all of that, like everything that comes with it. So obviously today's topic today is caretaking for our loved ones with special needs. And the reason, like I said, is because, you know, as parents, we never want to think of like the unthinkable, that we won't be here for our children. However, that's something that we do need to think about and plan for preemptively, not, you know, wishing ill on ourselves, but being just like super extra cautious and setting our kids up for success in the future. So, Reet, your profession, you're a personal trainer or coach?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So just tell us more about that. How did you get into that? What made you decide to follow that career path, which is kind of very unique and out of the ordinary?
Yeah. So I've always grown up in sports, and I got my degree in exercise sports science. I love helping people. I love motivating, inspiring, and so it just felt like a natural route to go. And I got this amazing personal training job in Austin, Texas, and was there for several years, had amazing mentors, and I've just been able to work with such a diverse population, ranging from anywhere from 8 years old to 80 years old, and so many different skill levels. And I love taking the intimidation factor away from working out, right? Like being in the gym. And so now that I have this brand new start, I decided, well, I could either start from ground zero in a gym again, or I can start from ground zero online. So I'm really taking the experience that I've had gained over the last 12 years and forming something online so I can just help so many more people. And it's transforming into so much more than just the physical aspect, right? Like, especially being a care provider, which people ask me, they're like, so how long have you lived with your brother? And I'm like, no, I mean, how long has he lived with you? I'm like, no, I live with him,
Yeah.
But it's so important to be able to carve out time for yourself and take care of yourself. And especially after this last year, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit more, I really got a better taste of what it's like when life is crazy, right?
Yeah.
And when you feel like you can't even carve out, 5, 10, 15 minutes of time for yourself, or you you haven't made that a priority, right? Because you're in very stressful situations and you don't know. So that's why I've created the Everyday Strong method, is because of this last year and having a better understanding of what it's like when your schedule is just chaotic and you have to show up for so many other people. How are you able to show up for yourself, which is so important when we want to give to others, when we want to care for others also. So, yeah.
Replenishing our cup is so important, and making time for ourselves. And that's one of the biggest takeaways that my listeners have on the show, the Comadres. I always recommend, like, or not recommend, but like push for them to take care of themselves, because there's no way that you can show up as your fullest, best, like highest self when you feel depleted. And I know it's hard, but like methods like yours that don't take a lot of time out of your day for you to do something and move your body is like, I feel like when people think about doing things like that, they think that has to be like a humongous chunk of time, and that you have to like go to somewhere specific or do something or buy things. You literally just need your body. And that's what I like about the method that you are promoting, and what you are advocating for. And also I love the aspect also of like spirituality that you're incorporating now. So I wanted you to maybe hit on that a little bit more.
Yeah. So we in the fitness world, we focus on the physical aspect first, right? And that's where I'm really like transforming how I approach just helping others, where we have to get our mind right first, because so many times we're limiting ourselves. And then we have to get our spirit aligned, whatever that looks like for you, whether that's, the God, divine, universe, yourself, like being able to connect to something that's greater than yourself is so important, because then what are we really here for, and to be able to give us strength during the times where we don't think we have enough strength, and to be able to, like, again, this last year I had no clue what it was going to look like after my dad had passed last February. And then all of a sudden I had, my mom who has cerebral palsy, and my brother who's autistic. I had two dependent people trying to take care of each other while I'm in Colorado and I was spending a lot more time here in Texas. And so we want to control things so much, right? And being able to be connected to spirit and having faith and allowing. And of course, we can't just say, okay, here we go, you do everything for me. It's like, no, you still have to take action, but also allow things to fall into place as it should too. And so that's why I think that it's so important to get our spirit aligned also. And then we focus on the physical aspect. We've been doing it the other way around, where it's like, oh, let's go ahead and, get in shape. And then we think our mindset and our spirit's going to fall into place, which at times that could happen. But being able to focus on those aspects first are so important.
Yeah. And then viewing exercise, I feel like my mindset has changed with respect to exercise and moving my body, and I'm much more kinder than I used to be to myself before. So I feel like I look at exercise as like I get to move my body, and I have the privilege of moving my body in this and that way to make myself feel better, or make myself feel good, or kind of help me decompress in a different way than I'm used to, which is awesome.
Having that power of choice, right? Like you even said it, I get to. And there are so many times where we say, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to go to the gym, I have to go for a walk. It's like, no, I get to go to the gym. I get to sit and meditate for 5 minutes. I get to go to the grocery store, because even those things are such a privilege that we're so fortunate that we actually get to do. So being able to change that mindset, change that perspective can make a world of difference.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for that, Reet. So I wanted to get a little bit more into like bring us back. Tell me about your childhood, what it was like growing up. Did you always live in Austin, Texas, or like are you a Texas girl by heart?
Yeah. It's so funny because like 2 years ago, I'd be like, no way. So I'm actually from San Antonio. I lived in Austin for several years. Um, and now being back in San Antonio as an adult, I'm like, yeah, Texas runs through your blood. Like, it's just this weird loyalty where I'm like, it feels so good to be back. Like, I do feel home. You have the, wide open, the skies are beautiful. That Texas sun, there is something different about the sun here in Texas, I have to say. So yeah, I was born and raised here in San Antonio, Texas, and after I graduated high school, that's when I moved to Austin and lived there for several years. And yeah, my childhood, I'm not going to go into, too specifics, but I had to grow up fast. And my brother Billy, he was born when I was 6, so we're 6 years apart. I'm 35 and he's 29. And yeah, it's so interesting being in the position that I'm in now, and I've I've been able to heal so many aspects, but there are also other things that are coming to the surface now, being back in the house that we moved into when I was in high school, right? And so my childhood, it was I grew up really fast, and I've always kind of played that caregiver role to a certain extent. I'm having a lot of responsibilities, just showing up for my family in ways that, I didn't know any different. It was just what I, fell into, and I thought that it's what I thought was normal, which is, I didn't know any different.
After I graduated high school at 17, I decided it was time for me to go and explore the world, figure out who I was and what I wanted. And so I had this really awesome opportunity where I was able to move to Austin and live with my aunt for a few years while I went to community college before transferring to Texas State. And it was just an amazing opportunity to really get out there and see what route I wanted to go, what path I wanted to go, and figure out who I was, since I knew my family situation was going to come back around.
And figure out who I am, because I grew up with so many responsibilities. With, my brother being autistic, and both of my parents having special needs also. And so feeling like I'm in this position where I had to show up in so many different ways and have responsibilities more than, a kid should. And we all have our stories, right? So yeah, to just, try to keep it surface, because still there's a lot of things that I'm keeping close to my heart.
Of course.
And once I graduated high school and went out and explored, I really pulled away from my family for different reasons. And it was really because I always knew that this situation was going to come back around. And we all have, trying relationships with our parents, no matter what, during different phases, right? And again, I'm so fortunate that I did do that, because I feel so much more confident in my own skin and who I am to be able to show up for my brother and my mom now. So
wow, that's such a touching story, and I give you like all your props, because it's hard, like stepping into that type of role and having to grow up before you needed to, right? And I definitely see, like, moving across the country and like figuring out who you are as yourself, because I feel like when we step into these caretaker roles, like, we just begin to identify ourselves as just this caretaker, and we don't really know who we are outside of the role sometimes. So it's really good to really hone in and check in with yourself and figure out who you are as a person, outside of like being a mom, outside of being a sister, outside of being a brother, or whoever, whatever your role is in life. So So you shared some of the story of how you came to care for your brother. Do you want to share more about what the experience has been like since moving back? I know you were traveling back and forth between Colorado and San Antonio, but can you tell us more about when, like, what this, how did the decision come about, and like when you decided to do it?
Yeah. So when my dad passed, like I had mentioned, I had my brother and mom here, and I was really trying to figure out what the best quality of life is going to be for all three of us. I knew something pretty drastic had to change. And talk about caregiving. I mean, circling it back to Billy, because he is the one that is, blowing up Instagram right now, and being like, Instagram is adopting him as, Instagram's brother because of his kindness and his selflessness. And when I truly started reintegrating myself back into my family, and I saw just Billy, and because my dad got really sick over the last, few years, and I started reintegrating the year before he had passed. But to see the roles that my brother was playing, and just how selfless he was, and my mom, just day-to-day activities became extremely difficult, right? And so he really had stepped up. And so being in this new position, it's like I truly wanted him to have the best quality of life, because he deserves it no matter what. And my mom also, right? And in this new position that we're in. And so as I was going back and forth from Colorado to Texas, spending a lot more time in Texas, at that point, Billy started a day program, SA Life, which has been absolutely amazing. In July, he'll be there for a year, and he goes Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And it's just, I'm so impressed with all of the activities they do, how much interaction he has, because before, I mean, he stayed in high school until he was 21 is how long you can stay?
Yeah, 21.
And then he's really just been at home with my dad. And so it was really a goal to get him just interacting more and getting out into the world. And then I was able to find in-home care for my mom a little bit while he was gone. And then my mom ended up falling, and that's I knew once this happened, it was going to start the whole process of her potentially, going into a nursing facility, because of just, it was really hard to care for her at home, right?
Yeah.
And I just didn't know when. We don't know when this stuff is going to happen. It happened a lot sooner than I thought. And so that's what started the whole process. And I got her into therapy, and then we made a decision, of course, as a family, that a nursing facility was going to be the best. Well, now with my dad gone and my mom into a nursing facility, I mean, of course I'm going to move back home. There's no thought about it. I know people have thought, what?
Hi, Billy.
Hi.
Say
Hi, Billy.
Hi. Okay, yung higher.
Okay, thank you. There was no.
I got by my pill.
Okay, it's okay.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. And so I'm so sorry. I told him I was going to be on a call, and so
it's okay.
Oh, I lost my train of thought now.
You're saying that you decided as a family to put her in a nursing facility, and that accelerated the process of you moving back and all of that.
Yeah, and I know my parents, we've been in the San Antonio area for so long that the community that my parents have built is amazing.
Wow.
I truly could not have made it through this last year with the help of my parents' community, with their church, with where my mom worked, with my aunt. I mean, with mentors on my side. It really, so many people stepped up And so they were very curious on what was going to happen. They thought I was just going to, move everybody to Colorado. And I'm like, Colorado is great, but it's just, it would be a lot easier for just me to be here, you know? And so that's when I didn't even think twice about it, honestly.
It's like a no-brainer.
Of course I wanted to be here for my brother. I've always wanted to be here for my brother. It's just considering the circumstances, it wasn't time yet. And I had to tell myself that, right? Like when the time was meant to be for me to truly be here for my brother, that it'll all fall into place. And it has. And it feels like I get my brother back too. And it's been so fun to be able to share that on social media also, because it is this new relationship, but it feels like no time has passed between us also. So
that's a perfect segue into the next question I had on the talking points was, how has this new change affected you and his relationship? How have you reintegrated into each other's lives, and how have you created like new traditions and new, I don't know, like new routines for him? Because I know our babies on the spectrum are not babies, our people on the spectrum, our loved ones on the spectrum, they have these routines that they like live in, and they enjoy. So how were you able to kind of shift his world a little bit and adapt to his routines and him adapt to yours, and then create some new ones of your own?
Yeah, well, again, I've only been here for almost now 6 months, and it's all so new for both of us. I've just been so impressed with how well Billy has adapted to the changes, because, even though we're in the same house, everything is different. Like, I remember when I first came in, and when my dad was in the hospital, I came in and I started just cleaning out the house so that when he came home, it felt good, not knowing he wasn't going to come home, right? So, I was just trying to get it to a certain standard, and Billy would just close his door. He's like, nope, you are not coming in my room. You're not touching my room. And then he would like slowly start coming around to it. And I think over time, as he started seeing the changes, and as he started seeing like, oh, these are really good changes. Okay, yeah. And he is the sweetest. He would be like, when I painted the outside of the house, he'll come out and he's like, wow, I love what you've done with the paint. And I'm like, who are you? Like, seriously, I love it so much. And so he's adjusted so well to the changes, and we're learning. Like, for me, on my standpoint, it is bizarre because I have this like child, but he's also an adult too, right? He's 29. And so I'm like trying to figure out, how do I balance these two aspects? Like, yes, he is independent to a certain extent. He knows how to take care of himself and things around the house with, friendly reminders, but he's also still very childlike also. And how do you not, dampen that innocence? How do you continue to keep that? Because that's what makes him so special also. So it's this weird, like, balancing act of like, I have a kid now, but he's an adult and he's my brother, and how do I juggle these? And one of the biggest things that I have to remind myself is that, like, I still have to teach him a lot of things, like a lot of basic things, just because I'm just going to say because, and so I have to stop and I have to remind myself when I'm like, wait, you don't know that. Okay, that's okay. So bring it back to basics. And that's one thing that, like, we're going to start creating a schedule, is like truly working on just those basics. Like, I think that it's not that he's not capable of it. It's just he needs to be taught and have that consistency, right? Like, right or left, this way. It's like, no, I want you to use your words, because he was really used to just like pointing. And my parents knew his language, and I know his language, but I also want him to practice, right?
Yes.
And so when he is like, in the beginning, I'd ask him, oh, what did you have for lunch? Or what did you have for breakfast? And he would go and pull it out. And I'm like, no, I want you to use your words. And he's like, and we'll practice saying it, right? And so it's not that he can't do it. It's just, we need to work on it.
He needs more practice.
Yeah. So it is this, it's crazy. It is this like weird, like, I know I've told this story before on different things, but like, I remember it was, I don't know, the first few weeks I was here, and I grabbed my laundry, and he's like, oh, and he grabs his laundry, and I'm like, no, I'm doing my laundry. You can do your laundry. And he's like, oh, okay. Like, having that still like brother-sister moments too, where it's like, no, you do your stuff. But also setting him up for that independence also. And he does so well. So being able to just learn each other, and really he is getting to know himself, because before he's just in an environment now where I encourage him to speak. Like, I want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear how you're feeling. What do you like? What do you not like? So we work on things like that. And it's all a learning process, and we have to get into our routine and figure out just different ways to help him grow. And that is my goal.
Perfect. That's like, as a special education teacher, I'm going to give you a high five virtually. You are doing exactly what you need to do. And yes, providing those opportunities for him to speak. I know our kiddos, especially, even if they have language, if they can get away with asking for things, just pointing and using gestures, they're going to do that. So pushing him to use his words, obviously not to frustration level, but, teaching him like, hey, Billy, I would love for you to say, but don't say, because that's another thing. That's another, what is it? I feel as parents or as caretakers, we want to tell them what to say, but like, there's different ways of prompting language without saying, say this, say that, or asking like a bunch of different questions. So I'll send you more resources as well, but that's perfect. And I love how you are adjusting to his world, but he's also being pushed to grow even more than he has already, which is amazing.
Yeah, like one of the things that's so interesting you bring that up about, like, you not wanting to tell him how to say something, or because I feel there are times where I'm like, gosh, okay, how can I do this different? Because I don't want to be that like, no, do this, no, do that. Like that's the last thing that I want to do. And one of the big things with him is he used to say, I'm sorry a lot, all the time.
Okay.
And I'm like, Billy, why are you saying sorry? And that's just because of certain situations, and just how he was raised in the environment, and how the environment that we were in. And I've had to stop, and I'm like, did you hurt my feelings? And he's like, no. Did you do anything wrong? No. Then you don't have anything to be sorry for, right? And being able to teach him that, where it's like, no, or if I forget to, do something, he's like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, but you didn't do it. I did it. Like, you don't need to be sorry about that. And so being able to teach him different ways, like, we really got into young Sheldon. And at the end of young Sheldon, at one point he goes, oopie, in that show. And Billy started saying that, and I connected it to that show. And so instead of him like saying sorry when he makes a mistake or forgets to do something, he'll be like, oopie, instead of saying, I'm sorry all the time.
Yeah, that's great.
So yeah, I would love to have more resources also.
Yeah, definitely.
It's all new.
It's so important, and teaching them pragmatic language, just communication skills in general that they can use when we're not around too, is so important. I know that Aiden gets away with more. My son gets away with more, like when he's around, like my mom or older people, because I don't know. I don't know if they think that they're not capable, but I know what he's capable of. So communicating that with like the community and the network, people that work with him, that he is capable of doing all these things, and letting them know exactly how to get him to do those things, a lot of the time he does it with like minimal prompting, or even like not even, he doesn't even need physical prompting. It's more like, hey, Aiden, remember this, you have to, whatever it is, and he'll go and do it. So, you know, just having everybody on your team on the same page is important as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And my aunt lives in Austin, and she's a big role model in our lives, and that is one thing that we try to stay in communication about. The things that, like, you know, we're working on here, she's like, okay, but you know, that's good to know, so I can be on the same page, so I can practice with him also too.
Great. Wait, okay, you gotta teach me Texas. How far is Austin from San Antonio?
Yeah, no, it's just well, depending on what time you leave. On a good day, if you leave early in the morning, it's like an hour and 20 minutes.
Okay,
if you leave on like a Friday afternoon, it can take you like 2.5 hours. So.
Oh my God. Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. So she's not far.
No, that's good. So I was gonna ask you, so besides getting into his routines and all these other things, what has been your biggest adjustment so far?
I think that is a great question, because it has definitely ebbed and flowed, you know. The first few months that I was here, you know, I was just struggling with some other things that I was going through with my life. And then now, as I'm getting adjusted to this new routine, I would say the constant on button. The constant on button from like 5 a.m. in the morning until, and he's gotten better, but it's like the constant cartoons in the background. I'm not used to having the TV on all of the time. And it's just cartoons all of the time.
Yeah.
Oh, the same cartoon also, you know, and then him being a little cartoon because he's replaying it and having like, so it's adapting to that, like, that constant on button. And he's great. There are times where I can tell him, I'm like, okay, can you go hang out in your room a little bit, because you've been in the living room a lot the last, you know, week to 2 weeks. And we have a great setup where it's kind of like he gets one side of the house, I get the other side, and we have like the common areas splitting up.
Okay.
But there are still times where I'm like, you know, I don't like the TV on all of the time. And the constant like cartoon voices, or his conversations are just mimicking cartoons. Which, you know, is fine. It's just, it's not something that I'm used to. And so I can tell him, I'm like, okay, can we take a break from it just for a little bit? He's like, okay, pause. I'm like, great, awesome, thanks, Billy. Or he'll be like, ooh, okay, I'll go back in my room. So, I mean, that is the great thing about him is that he never like argues. He never like puts up a fight about anything. I can just, and I say it sweet. I'm not like getting onto him or anything like that. I'm just like, okay, can we have some quiet time, please? Oh, okay. I'll go in my room, you know.
Aww.
So, yeah.
You're saying that, and my son's like, I can hear him far away in the background, like listening to his cartoon and playing and replaying. So yeah, Aiden does a lot of echolalic speech as well, like Vivi. And I've, you know, now that you're mentioning it, I'm like, I'm so used to it. I'm just completely unfazed by it. But I do have my moments that I'm like, hey Aiden, do you mind if you put the volume down on the TV? Can we take a pause? And then we've been working on with the ABA therapist about him using his big boy voice. So he'll be like, okay, mom. And I'm like, okay. So that's who's showing up. But I feel like it's gonna take more work for him to get out of that, because it's been a habit. He's very cartoony when he talks. But I feel like it's cute sometimes and endearing, but you know.
Yeah. Yes.
When I want people to take him seriously, I want him to use his big boy voice.
Right. Yeah. And it is. It's very like, and we get along so well that it is learning, and I have to admit, when it is that time of month and it's like everything is bothering you, that cartoon in the background, you're just like, can you just please just stop?
That's like how I practice yoga. Honestly, that's why I got into Kundalini. Like and then I even got him to start practicing with me. So I'm like, okay, Aiden, it's quiet time. Let's sit down and meditate. And I actually went to get my yoga certification, but teaching him that it's okay to be quiet sometimes. And one thing that we do well together, I feel like we've built this routine of parallel playing. We'll be in the same room together and we'll just be quiet together and just enjoy our silence. I mean, eventually he'll start talking, but yeah, no, it's gonna take some time. But I know that because you are so positive and that he is such an amazing person, you guys are gonna get it, and it's just gonna flow eventually.
Yeah, and it does. Like 95% of the time, it truly does. It's just we're all human, and there are times where it's like that chatter is just too much sometimes.
No, for real. And I tell people that you can love your child, of course, to the moon and back, but two things can be true at the same time. Like, you can need quiet and a little space sometimes from your child, and that's normal,
Yeah.
So,
and that was one of the biggest adjustments too. He is so affectionate, which it's great. Like, he's very loving, but also teaching him to, like, Billy, just make sure that not everybody wants to be hugged. Like, not everybody wants to be so close. And there are times where I'm like, okay, just please, He's like, oh, and he has gotten better. Like, I'll tell him, like, can you ask me, like, can I hug you? Or, can I be close to you? And I'm like, yes, because he needs to be taught that also, where it's not just so, and I know he's sweet and he's innocent and he means so well, but not everybody wants that also, and so and that's coming from me, where I'm not always like, I don't want to be so close all of the time also.
As a teacher, I try to teach my students also consent. So that's like a reigning topic in my classroom, especially I have a couple of kiddos on the spectrum that are very affectionate all the time. And we've taught, like, as a team, we're like, okay, you need to ask for permission before you hug someone. And then I'm the type of person that, unless it's like family, I don't really want to be hugged, right? Yeah. So, not that I don't love my students, I love my students, but I'm just like, okay, not today. I was like, can I like interest you in a high five instead? And building that rapport of, just because I'm not giving you the hug in that moment doesn't mean I don't care about you as your teacher. Give me this instead. And then with Aiden as well, like, I feel like consent is so important, and especially with our kids with special needs in general. And then for them to set a boundary too. Like, I'll ask Aiden, like, Aiden, can I give you a kiss? And sometimes he'll say no. And I'm like, cool. All right, let me go over here.
Yeah. I think it's just a great thing to practice no matter what,
So how you said that your dynamic has pretty much been the same. Did you, like you said, you did say that when you were younger, you did picture that this would be your role eventually?
Yes. Yeah, it's always been that thing that's just kind of been over here that I always knew was going to come back around. I just didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know when it was going to happen. I didn't know how it was going to happen. I tried to set myself up for the best that I could. And I compare it to, like, I don't have kids of my own or anything like that, but from what I hear, it's like having kids, right? You can only prepare so much. You just, and then, once your kid comes, it's okay, now let's just figure it out. Like, I've tried the best. I've tried to prepare myself for the best that I can, and now we're in it. We're learning. And so I feel like that's a lot of what has happened, where it's like, yeah, I've prepared as much as I knew how to, because how do you truly prepare for a situation like this? I mean, it is, it's just a very unique situation.
Yeah,
very
especially
unique
like
situation.
Going through grief and then subsequently becoming a caretaker after. I can't even imagine, you know.
And being the power of attorney for my mom, like figuring out her situation. So it all was just kind of thrown at me. And you just move with it. You go through it, and that's where spirit comes into play, and God, and trusting, and I did not do a good job of reaching out for help because you don't know, right? Like you have all of these people who, oh my gosh, if you need anything, if you need help, just let me know. And it's like, okay, great. Yeah. You don't need help until after the situation sometimes where you're like, oh, I could have used some help in that situation. And I have a flaw of I think I can do everything on my own, and that's not a good flaw either. I mean, that's not a good trait to have, you know?
Yeah.
So, I always knew that it was going to come back around. I knew this situation was going to come back around. And I am just so fortunate that it has, and the way that it has now.
I love that. So I was going to ask you, do you have Billy working out as well with you, or does he do his own thing in the program that he participates in?
Yeah, so in the beginning, we were definitely working out a lot more together. I'd take him to Crunch, and then we would do stuff here. You were talking about meditating with Aiden. I had Billy meditating, and then once he got more on his schedule at program, I know they go and do health-related stuff, fitness stuff, that it was kind of my time to be away from Billy too. That I'm like, okay. You're getting exercise there, but I did tell him, I was like, we need to get back on a good routine with that, even if it's just 3 times a week doing something. And I'm going to start him on the everyday strong method because I need to work with him on the mindset stuff and just like memory, those basic things. And so we're going to set the goal, and I'm going to take him through the whole program. And then with the spirit, we're going to meditate. And then, the physical, we're going to go and do something active, whatever that is. But
that sounds cool. I love that.
Yeah.
So, I know you already meditate. That's one of the things you do to relax. How else do you help yourself relax?
Yeah, meditate for sure. Yoga has been huge. Just reintegrating and getting used to this new lifestyle, and recentering, staying within. Yoga has always been played a huge part in my life.
Okay.
So I've done that a lot. Go to the gym, work out, sit and stare at the wall. It's good to just have silence too. Like today when Billy was with his rec therapist, the house was so quiet, and I was just like walking. I was like doing a walking meditation around the house just because it was quiet. Like to be able to just be in silence. I love the energy of silence, and existing in it, and being able to connect with my internal being. So that is another thing that I definitely do to just relax.
That's important.
And massages help too.
I feel that some people are so afraid of like silence. And I feel okay, so I do date. So when I date, if we're driving together, sometimes I just want to be quiet, and there's some people that are afraid of silence and they just want to fill every space with like words, and I'm like, you don't have to talk, like it's fine. I'm not, it's just fine.
Yeah.
But it's so interesting. Yeah, that being in silence and observing silence, I feel, is such a deep thing, because I get a lot of downloads when I'm meditating and just observing silence, and some of my best ideas actually come during that time. It's like when you get the lightning strike.
Exactly.
I wanted to know what motivated you to share your story on social media?
Yeah. So I really started getting into social media a little bit more like during COVID, like a lot of people. And my focus was just on fitness and trying to figure out, how do I keep my training business during the COVID times and things like that. So that's where I really started getting introduced in TikTok. I was all about the TikTok game back in the COVID days, just because I felt like it was more raw and you didn't have to put on a show, right?
Yeah.
Like you could just turn on your camera and be like, this is who I am. You like me? Great. Stick around. If you don't, okay, bye. Instagram, I've always I don't know, I just have always felt kind of weird with Instagram because it's always felt so polished, like I've said before.
So curated.
And that wasn't me. I'm like, I'm not just going to post a picture of me posing and then write a novel underneath it. Like, I'm not going to do that because first off, I'm not photogenic at all. Jenna, girl, it's going to be a horrible picture and probably bad grammar and all of it. So it's just, I didn't relate. Like, I'm able to show my personality so much more through just this, right?
Yeah.
Like, I want people to feel like they've known me forever. They're my best friend and we're just sitting and having a conversation. So when 2 months ago, and I've been sharing stuff on TikTok. It's just TikTok hasn't, like, the algorithm has just completely changed. And 2 months ago, when I was really trying to figure out, what do I want to do for my career? Like, I need to start working because I had been taking care of, my family matters and then remodeling the house. I'm like, okay, things are starting to settle down. What do I do? So that's when I signed up for Sophia Spallino's profitable personal brand. Did I say that right? Something like that. Yeah, I think I did. And it's been great because, personal training, it's personal for a reason. And that was one of my struggles in going online is it's like, how do I build that community? And this is such a huge part of my life right now. And just storytelling. Like, that's what she encourages in just the course is being able to put yourself out there and having a good balance. And I've always known that, for my career in person, people don't come, like, I've had clients where they're like, Marguerite, the only reason why I'm here is because of you. Like, I care less about doing squats. I just want to talk to you. So it's creating that connection and being able to relate and showing people that I'm human, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is what's going on in my life. And that's why I decided to share across the platforms and not just Instagram, not knowing Instagram was just going to love everything about Billy and what's going on and sharing our story. Like, I think that's another thing is me becoming more centered within myself and healing so many different parts of me and healing my relationship with my mom and developing this new relationship with my brother. It's also very healing for me to be able to share it because I know that it's helping others and I'm all about wanting to inspire and help others. And I know there have been times where I'm like Googling articles, I'm like trying to relate to someone, right?
Yes.
And the stories and the messages that I have been getting over the last 2 weeks have just completely made my heart absolutely explode because people are relating. They're like, oh my gosh, like, yes. And so that's a lot. The main reason why is because it's a part of me. It's a part of our story. And Billy deserves all of the recognition. He deserves all of the love. He deserves everything. And I want to give him everything. And I want to create a life where, he gets to go and travel. He gets to do all of the experiences because been able to. And so now it's his turn, and to be able to, create a community. I'm all about community, especially even more so after this last year with my dad passing, and seeing the community really rise for my family. And it just leaves you speechless. It really does, where it's like, that's what this is all about. And so being able to share my story and having people relate and showing that they're not alone, and there are people out there that, do care. And we can get through this no matter how crappy the situation looks, Yeah.
And things always get better. Sometimes we have to touch rock bottom, unfortunately, to be able to rise and be even better than before. And I feel like this situation it's just going to teach you who you are. And I mean, you already know who you are, but a different facet of yourself that you may not have known before. And it's going to make you an even better person than you already are.
Well, and I feel like it not only is it teaching me so much about myself, but it's helping me relate to so many other people also. Because before this last year, and that's another reason why I created the Everyday Strong Method, is because, I've always been this like very optimistic, the glass is always half full. I always used to say, my glass is always full. It's half of water, half of air. That's always full, Like I've always been that person. And depression, I never really, like, I could have compassion and empathy for people, but I couldn't really understand it. I didn't know what that really felt like. And anxiety, I didn't really know. I'm like, well, you just, just change your thoughts or do this or do that. But, I didn't really know what it felt like until this last year, where I did experience, bouts of depression and anxiety. And I feel like I just scratched the surface of it. And it gives me so much more compassion for those who truly struggle with it on a day-to-day basis. And that's where just like, I guess that's what I'm learning so much more from this situation too, is just how to show up for other people, and to, we never know what someone's going through. Never know what someone's going through.
That is true. So I wanted to ask you, any new projects for 2024 that you can talk about?
You're looking at it. You're looking at it. We're going. We're leveling up. We're just, we're creating this new life. We're going to reach more people, spread more joy and happiness. I actually just worked on something today, and it's so awesome when you get this like motivation and inspiration, and things just come out of you. They flow out of you so much. And one thing that Billy and I are creating is this family online, because so many people are like, oh my gosh, we can't get enough of you. I wish we had you every single day. Like, can you please? And it's so wonderful to be able, I'm going to pull this up to get a little bit more. I know I can't show you, but it's called Happy Heart Exchange. And I am so, like, when I came up with this today, it felt so good in my heart, and I'm like, this is awesome.
Oh my God.
I've had people reach out and they're like, oh my gosh, do you have a Venmo? Can we, send you money so you and Billy can go get donuts or burritos, or, go do something fun? Or, do y'all have a P.O. box so we can send you things? Like, what's Billy's favorite toy? And I'm like, y'all, first off, Billy has so many toys. I appreciate y'all wanting to contribute. We have like 6 bins in the garage of toys, and they're Billy's prisoners, is what he says. And he has to go and he has to go and check on them all the time.
You love that.
So, and it's all about, I think one of the biggest things that I'm seeing on Instagram right now is people just truly loving our relationship, Billy and I. And like, and it is an equal parts give and take, right? Like I don't feel like I am his caregiver because we both show up in our own ways equally. And that's why I've created this Happy Hearts Exchange, is that, you know, those who do feel called to want to help us or want to be a part of our growth and see us succeed even more, they get to be a part of this. And it's that exchange. It's like, not only are they giving to us, but we're able to give back. So, you know, like Facebook groups, it's like a Facebook group, but it's on school. And I have a link in my bio. People can go, and it's just a membership. It's $13 a month, and they'll get, you know, daily videos or pictures of actually what's going on, like more on a day-to-day basis instead of Instagram where it's just, you know, a reel or something like that. And also, I want it to be a place where people can come and they don't feel alone when they need just a little extra support, because, you know, yeah, putting people before you can get lonely sometimes and get tiring. And so there is this, you know, community aspect to it where if you need resources, if you don't know how to get on Medicaid, if you are like, if your Medicaid is on hold, which I went through that the last 6 months, and I'm so thankful that I had, you know, mentors to help me through that, but people don't, right? And so to be able to create a space that not only are you getting, you know, the smiles and joy and that happy relationship between everyone, but you also get resources and support for being able to show up for yourself and for others also. So that's something that's like in the works, and I'm super excited about it. It's like ground level today, Marcy.
That's awesome. So I'm going to end the episode. I want to thank you so much, Reet, for coming on the show and being so transparent and so open and sharing your story with all of us. And I am going to end it how I usually end it, which is follow me at Comadreando Pod on Instagram and every other social media platform. And you can follow Reet on IG. Can you please drop your handle?
Yes, I will. That Everyday Strong.
Beautiful. And if you have any questions for me or Reet, please feel free to send me a Comadre-Gram via email at Marcy@comadreandopod.com or slide up into my DMs. Please visit our website to get Comadre merch, catch up on the latest blog posts, check out events, and merch. Thank you for spending time with your comadres. Thank you so much, Reet, again.
Thank you. Bye.